This book is also known as Invincible Starting from Huoying Yuezi Ren, and as Uchiha, What's Wrong with Being a Little Crazy. At the beginning, he was a deep blue panel, but unfortunately a mentally ill patient. As a master of manipulation and joyful person, he wanted to bring more joy and famous scenes to this world that often accompanies sadness and pain. Act 1. Let Naruto Vortex retrieve everything that belongs to him, and let Kiba feel pain. Naruto Vortex. I wouldn't harm the village. A certain traveler smiled and said, "It's okay, I'll help you. Those who betrayed my are Huoying. Naruto Vortex, today invite 3 generations of Hokage to die." Act 2, Act 3 Keywords of the novel. My kaleidoscope pupil technique is a dark blue dot without pop-ups. My kaleidoscope pupil technique is a dark blue dot without pop-ups. Download the complete set of TXT. My kaleidoscope pupil technique is a dark blue dot with the latest chapter reading. Chapter 1. Why Payne, Carrying Rice, with Wooden Leaves. You are listening at Novel Full. Audio. Chapter 1. Why Payne, Carrying Rice, with Wooden Leaves. What is the greatest feeling when traveling to the world of Hokage? Dareni, whose father's surname is Daren and his name is will definitely answer. It is true. When a vast world that is free from constraints caused by anime length, production costs, and practical reasons is truly presented to you, that shocking and authentic feeling is indescribable, something that cannot be imagined when watching anime. The most intuitive thing is that the scale of my far exceeds the size described in the anime, and the central old city still retains the old buildings and layout of my village from the beginning, which is closest to the description of the original work. Outside the old city area, towering skyscrapers, congested gasoline-powered cars on the streets, internet cafes of all sizes scattered throughout the streets, and mobile phones and smartphones in the hands of pedestrians all tell the story of how this city has become a modern metropolis. Yes, that's right. With the development of science and technology and the rise of industry, all kinds of scientific and technological products have already entered thousands of households, including refrigerators and televisions, microwave ovens, washing machines, mobile phones, computers and the internet. After being covered by more peripheral forests, there are also large scale factory areas that undulate and surround the entire city of Mai in a larger, endless steel jungle. My village is already the largest, safest, and most prosperous urban community in the Fire Kingdom and even the entire ninja realm. Countless people from all over the land of fire rush to work and settle down, gathering like ants to form an endless sea of people, bustling with work and daily life. The overwhelming crowd always crowded the wide roads inside and outside the village during commuting hours. Although smartphones and home computers have become popular, they are not cheap. The internet cafes, big and small, covered in wooden leaves, have become windows for children to understand the world and the greatest source of happiness. Dareni, a traveler who can hardly survive without the internet, is deeply grateful for this. Everything is so familiar that countless late-night awakenings have made Dareni unable to resist suspicion. Have I really traveled to the world of Hokage? Can't this be decades after the plot? Or is it a parallel world connected by dragon veins? He often feels that something is not quite right in this world of Hokage. It was only 7 years ago that Kiba village experienced the Nine Tails Rebellion, which resulted in the deaths of the 4th-generation Hokage wave, Feng Shuimen, and his wife, Vortex 9 Shinai. After carefully reviewing various historical materials in the public library of Kiba, he also confirmed that, the various historical records of Mai are very similar to the original Hokage, and there is essentially no difference. Except for some differences in the scale of war caused by higher levels of civilian technology and a larger population, there seems to be no abnormality. This may be the best era, as the great development of productivity and technology has led to an unprecedented abundance of various commodities and materials. It seems that there is no longer a need to fight to the death to consume excess population, and there are enough resources for everyone to have enough to eat and meet their needs. once made countless people in the ninja world yearn for eternal peace that has lasted for countless eras and made countless sacrifices, it seems to be right. In front of me. The vast majority of the residents of Kiba feel that under the protection of the strongest 3 generations of Hokage in history, they can continue to live in peace and stability. In the eyes of those who have experienced war and turmoil, safety has always been the top priority. And Mai is the safest place. Everyone trusts Hokage. Of course, it's not entirely a good thing to use the wooden leaves of young ninjas during times of war, or to put it another way, the impact of the short life expectancy during times of war. In this world and era, even for ordinary people like Kiba, the majority of them have a very young age to work, such as Darini himself. Although he is only 13 years old this year, Darini has been working for 2 years as a well-known toy designer in a toy factory. You only need to submit some self-design toys at regular intervals to enjoy high salaries and a certain amount of toy sales dividends, earning a considerable income. How to say this working age? I can only say that it's not very scientific, but it's very futuristic. Under the night, Darini, who had been fishing for a whole day, walked into a cooked food store on his way home from work. In the store, guests sitting and drinking with friends, as well as standing and waiting for the boss to cut meat, are mostly formal villagers with residence permits and properties in my village. They were directly protected by the ninjas of Kiba village and the government, and their treatment in all aspects was completely different from that of ordinary people in the fire country who later moved in. Most of the civilian ninjas in the village had close ties with them, and they also particularly enjoy forming groups. Even big businessmen and factory owners usually avoid provoking this group. The great benevolence and righteousness of this life are also one of them. In the bustling shop, the aroma of wine and meat is strong, making people drool and crave. Everyone is very enthusiastic, smiling and greeting each other warmly, as if they are all family. Shui, I'm 13 years old this year. Aren't you planning on getting engaged yet? If you don't look for her, it'll be too late. You'll have to look for an old girl who can't get married. The shop owner, Uncle Maeda, skillfully cuts and packages meat for Darini while joking with him. In this world and era, neighbors like to marry their daughters to acquaintances who know their roots well, and they usually get married and engaged very early. Actually, it's quite cost-effective to marry a wife from a foreign country. The little girls who came from the Rain country before were all very beautiful and beautiful. I am not satisfied with spending money to get married and return it, but unfortunately, Rain country has heard of some kind of organization. People in this industry say that this business cannot be done. In recent years, the water country has been very chaotic, with many refugees fleeing to our fire country. You can choose a beautiful and obedient person who doesn't have much family burden to marry back home. If you change your surname and have a child, you will be your own person. A drunken neighbor uncle hugged Darini's neck from behind and introduced him seriously with a familiar and particularly proud tone. Lying trough. Uncle Imagawa, what are you talking about? Darini fell silent. If Changman hears these words next to him at this moment, he will not reward you with a super god Luo Tianjing, high or low. He seemed to understand why Payne had to carry rice on the wooden leaves. Who puts themselves in this situation and goes crazy when they hear this? Indeed, some pains are impossible to understand and even impossible to empathize with unless experienced firsthand. At this moment, the villagers of Kiba clearly cannot understand what true pain is. The people in the shop, with a certain sense of pride, discussed the matter of marrying a foreign wife after Uncle Imagawa started his business. In words, it can easily make the future 5 generations of water shadows shine on Meiming and bow their heads to tears, and make the future god, 6 paths Payne, who will defeat a country, break through defense and go crazy. People who enjoy peace and stability will naturally feel an uncontrollable sense of superiority. Lies won't hurt people, truth is the sharp sword. Real damage, critical strikes with knives, it's hard not to break through defense. Is it the aftermath of turmoil caused by controlling water shadows with soil in the land of water? The giant's capricious and casual actions, even if separated by a long distance, are still the aftermath of disasters that life cannot bear for the weak. Darini was absent-mindedly pondering. The shop owner, Uncle Maeda, noticed that Darini was not very interested in this and wanted to change the topic. Xiao-yi should still be thinking about Quan, right? The bustling shop suddenly fell silent for a moment, and only Uncle Imagawa, who didn't understand the atmosphere, let out a long sigh and shouted loudly, "Alas, that little girl from Quan was really likable when she was a child. She had a close relationship with Xiaoyi, who had been sensible since childhood. Everyone thought they must be a pair. Unfortunately, she is now a ninja or a genius girl from the wealthy family Uchiha, different from us commoners." Darini awkwardly chuckled twice, with a tone of complaint in his words, "I'm really sorry, I didn't get into ninja school." Uncle Imagawa, who was full of nerves, remained unaware and patted his chest, promising, "Uncle, I will definitely introduce you to a beautiful and well-behaved foreign girl who is obedient, sensible, and married to someone who doesn't want anything. If you're not satisfied, it's guaranteed. By the way, I also comforted you, marrying a female ninja may not be a good thing. After getting married, she will beat you up. You don't even have the ability to protect yourself, so you can only get beaten for nothing. In case of infidelity and murder, even the security department may not be able to discover any evidence of their skillful handling of the body." Darini couldn't help but wipe away his cold sweat. If it were Yuzhibo Spring, if he found out that his husband was cheating, he wouldn't be able to open a kaleidoscope on the spot. "Ah, not so, not so. Uncle Imagawa, you're still so good at telling cold jokes. Imagawa, stop joking, and Xiaoyi, your cooked food is packed now." Uncle Maeda, the boss, glared at Uncle Imagawa, who never looks at the atmosphere when speaking, asking him to restrain himself. Taking over Uncle Maeda's packaged meat and cooked food, the old customer Darini proficiently handed over 100 liang banknote. The currency value of this world is not exactly the same as the original Hokage, and the prices are a bit close to the past life of Darini, but the fluctuations are significant. Once the relationship between the five major powers becomes slightly tense, currencies will depreciate wildly. Darini has always been seriously skeptical that there are unscrupulous individuals who are crazily cutting leaks. Returning home, a two-story small building with a small courtyard, living alone by Darini, appeared quite deserted. His father in this lifetime was a commoner ninja, and his mother was not even a ninja. The couple died together on the night of the Nine Tails Rebellion. This is similar to the fourth-generation Hokage couple, but unfortunately, countless people remember the Feng Shui men couple, but no one remembers these little characters with lives like mustard grass. In the room where the lights were turned on but still a bit gloomy, Darini stood silently in front of the mirror. His black and white eyes suddenly turned blood red, and a pair of sangoyu silently rotated in his eyes. End of this chapter. Chapter 2. Yuzhibo's Annihilation Night. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 2. Yuzhibo's Destruction Night. On the night of the Nine Tails Rebellion, he, who was worshipped by his parents, regained his memories of his past life and opened up his Sharingan, destined to accompany sadness and loss. After that night, Darini realized that his mother in this lifetime, like Quan's mother, was from the Yuzhibo tribe who had married out and changed their surname. On that night, Quan, who had lost his father, also opened the Sharingan and returned to the Uchiha clan with his mother. Darini chose to conceal and evade. Knowing about the future Uchiha extermination incident, he did not want to have any relationship with Uchiha at all, even strongly opposed Quan and her mother's return to Uchiha, as his attitude was too intense and caused a considerable controversy at the time. Both the Ministry of Security and Kiba have classified him as a type of villager who dislikes Uchiha. Even the senior management of the village has a slight impression of the name Darini because they are concerned about the tense relationship between Uchiha and the villagers. In front of the mirror, Darini was silently stunned. It must be admitted that after experiencing the bloody night of the Nine Tails Rebellion, he was really panicked and afraid. The widespread ninjutsu that is usually released with full endurance seems to have the power of a missile explosion, covering an area that can easily destroy an entire long street and shatter a piece of high-rise buildings, and far superior to ordinary nine-tailed creatures. The power released by the tailed beast Jade is simply a nuclear explosion. Thank you for your invitation. What is the experience of witnessing a nuclear explosion seen up close? Darini feels that he has a strong voice in this matter. First, he was blinded by the bright light that almost turned the entire night sky into day, followed by a loud roar that shook his ears with blood. The turbulent air formed circles of high-speed shock waves, sweeping all people and objects on the ground, as well as tall buildings and houses, to the ground. The originally solid earth was like waves in a storm, surging irregularly and violently one after another. After ravaging, only ruins were left, and the ruins were filled with corpses that died tragically, and as soon as he looked up, the massive and extremely massive mushroom cloud towered into the sky, in the most direct and brutal way, arousing the giant phobia engraved in human genes. He never thought that after the anime scene was transformed into the third dimension, it was so cruel that the truth that was not described in detail in the animation was presented to him naked. This is a nightmare, and Darini suspects that all those who have personally experienced that night have suffered from mental illness to some extent, and have some mental problems to some extent. However, he is different, know a little about psychology and mental illness. My own condition is more serious. Sangoyu's Sharingan is evidence I have never been to the battlefield or killed anyone, and I am enthusiastic about public welfare and charity in my daily life. Even my neighbors praise me as a good child, but unfortunately, such a normal person, when eating at home 4 years ago, naturally started Sangoyu. Darini felt a bit conflicted in his heart. As a traveler without a golden finger, he was a bit afraid of death and hesitant. He was unsure whether he could reach the peak before and after taking the stage, so he instinctively postponed the problem. After that night, he dug up the valuable relics hidden in the iron box by his parents from the basement buried at home. Among the relics are complete ninja education materials carefully prepared by Nakano's father in advance, and various notes and explanations in the textbooks are carefully marked. It can be seen from this that as a father, he is looking forward to the warm moment of personally educating his son in the future. The preparation work is quite thorough, and the words and lines marked next to the textbook materials are filled with happiness and joy that cannot be concealed. In the interlayer of the iron box, there are even some secret techniques of the Uchiha family, such as Kuwa throwing technique, fire escape ninjutsu, and illusion technique, and the most rigorous manuscript on the principles of illusion and research and development experience of the package, authored by Yuzhibo Governance, the original character in the TV anime. The founder of the illusion, Izanami, is a mysterious owner of the Kaleidoscope Sharingan. Obviously, these things were all left by his mother. When Darini first discovered them, he was quite surprised. These things must have been passed on by the Uchiha family without permission, especially the manuscript. It seems that his mother is not only a bit mysterious, but also not a very conventional person. With these precious legacies, I don't want to be associated with Uchiha, nor do I want to become a regular ninja who unconditionally obeys all orders from superiors. Darini simply failed to enroll in the ninja school due to his limited talent, and was eliminated in the entrance exam. In recent years, due to the sharp increase in residential population, Kiba Ninja School has had to expand its enrollment multiple times, even setting entrance exams and repeatedly increasing the difficulty of the exams, but the admission quota is still particularly tight, and there is no concern about the elimination of an ordinary person. Don't think too much, work hard and live a good life. Don't you get used to things like 996 and 007 in your previous life. I've traveled, and I have to go to work. Darini reached out and gently patted his face in the mirror, comforting him with a calm expression as usual. To be precise, it has no facial expressions, just like a round and smooth, middle-aged Buddhist social animal polished by life, calm in all directions. Step on. Suddenly, on the long street outside the window, there was a faint, almost imperceptible sound of footsteps coming in, seemingly far apart. Darini flashed and appeared at the window of an unlit room by the street, silently looking into the distance. two ninjas wearing wooden leaf dark uniforms and animal masks are chasing a young girl. The girl wearing a purple coat seemed to have been injured quite a bit and fled silently and hastily under the moonlight, her face full of confusion, and fear and sadness. Although it was still a bit far away and the late-night street lights had already been turned off, Daruni, who had 3 swirling jade in his eyes, could still see the embroidered Uchiha emblem on his coat and the unforgettable face. Is it so coincidental? Quan, the night of Yuzhibo's extermination turned out to be tonight. Witnessing his childhood sweetheart being chased and killed with his own eyes, Daruni only made a mark on his expressionless hand and then made no further action. Before the girl was killed, she looked at this familiar childhood street and didn't know what she remembered. Her face even wore a sweet and satisfied smile, without any resistance or shouting for help. I was quietly pierced by Kou's throat and fell silently into happy memories. The killer, her childhood sweetheart, and even the deceased themselves did not feel sad for her, as if only the tear mole below the right corner of their eye was mourning for her. It seems like something's wrong. The dark ninja pulled out the blood-stained Kumo and asked his companion a question. Although it was a question, his tone and voice were devoid of any emotion, numb like a machine. Another dark ninja also carefully examined the body and confirmed, no problem, she destroyed her own Sengoku Sharingan before she died. Then the two of them tacitly cleaned up the scene and left with the body. Daruni put down his hand to seal the knot, and 2 lines of blood and tears flowed from the corner of his eyes. Sengoku's Sharingan evolved without any surprise. The 3 Goyu were connected together, twisted and transformed into 3 sickles, with the sickle blade facing outward and the handle connected, seemingly eager to harvest something. The whole is like a twisted flame, burning either the world or oneself. The condition has worsened again. Daruni looked at the semi-transparent panel that appeared before him as if he had hallucinated, and calmly muttered to himself, as a critically ill patient who has traveled through time, is it normal to fantasize about having golden fingers? The only abnormal thing is that this golden finger seems to work. Dark blue pointer plus physical constitution physical reserve energy. 100% plus spirit spiritual reserve energy. 100% abnormal degree of mental state. 37% chakra strength / recovery speed increase. 370% in-done ninjutsu / illusion skill strength increase. 370% tentatively pressing the plus sign in front of Constitution on the transparent panel labeled as Deep Blue Daughter. Daruni found that as the number in the physical reserve energy. 100% percentage below decreased, his physical strength, including clearly perceptible strength, agility in physical activity, hearing, vision, smell, and so on, were all crazily increasing. When this column becomes physical reserve energy 0%, your physical column is already physical enhancement. 300%, and the plus sign in front becomes dimmer. Daruni immediately filled the spirit column with enthusiasm again, and with a single operation, the attributes on the panel had been changed to plus physical fitness. Strengthened by 300% physical reserve energy. 0% plus spirit. Strengthened by 500% spiritual reserve energy. 0% abnormal degree of mental state. 37% chakra strength / recovery speed increase. 370% in-done ninjutsu / illusion skill strength increase. 370%, end of this chapter. Chapter 3. Deep Blue Panel. No, it's a kaleidoscope. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 3. Deep Blue Panel. No, it's a kaleidoscope. As he gazed at the deep blue panel with added points in front of him, Daruni thought of an interesting question. In the future, when his attributes increase by 100 or 1,000 times, wouldn't it become Constitution? Strengthening by 100,000%. Counting many zeros can be quite troublesome. Just as I thought about it, the deep blue panel in front of me shook and turned into Constitution. 3-inch and Spirit. 5-inch, while the rest remained unchanged. Dareni, who had long speculated, tentatively closed the constantly open Sharingan of the kaleidoscope. Sure enough, the semi-transparent, deep blue panel in front of him twisted into a colorless and transparent flame, and then disappeared into the air. Dareni closed his eyes, reopened the kaleidoscope, and carefully felt the special pupil technique in his eyes. In silence, colorless and transparent flames surged out of his eyes, enveloping his body in a distance of 3 meters around him, silently burning. The wooden floor underfoot and the potted plants shrouded in flames slowly lost all their vitality, eventually turning into ashes and dust. As his heart spun, the colorless and transparent flames condensed into a ball before his eyes, then continuously compressed and transforming back into the semi-transparent, deep blue panel. The pupil technique of one eye is devouring and plundering, while the pupil technique of one eye is evolutionary repair, combined with the characteristics of illusion, together form the dark blue dot panel. Opening his eyes, Dareni muttered to himself, helping himself clarify his thoughts. To be precise, this flame is the essence of the deep blue panel. Devouring and plundering is burning others, while evolution and repair are burning oneself. The reason for presenting this posture is due to the strong desire in my own heart. The kaleidoscope Sharingan is an eye that reflects the soul. Whatever one strongly desires in their heart, they will have the relevant pupil technique, and as a traveler without golden fingers, what I crave the most is naturally an external golden finger, so I imagined a deep blue panel for myself. Sure enough, people must rely on themselves. You don't have a strong desire for the golden finger yourself, and you can't even think of it. You can't think of it, think of getting mentally ill, or even go crazy about it. Why should the golden finger be given to you? Repeatedly examining the 37% abnormal level of mental state on the panel, Dareni once again confirmed that his psychological problems and mental illness had greatly worsened, and his condition was becoming increasingly severe. In order to obtain the cheat gold finger, I have indeed put in a lot of effort. The Uchiha clan, from the moment they opened their Sharingan, their mental state had already become abnormal, with one being undoubtedly a mental patient. The process of opening an eye using the knowledge of a previous life can also be considered as a psychological problem leading to physiological changes, from single-hooked jade to double-hooked jade, from double-hooked jade to three-hooked jade. The condition worsens time and time again, and the kaleidoscope is a sign of complete madness. It's just that the types of madness are different. Some people are more straightforward while others are more reserved, some are crazy without logic, while others are crazy with organization. But fundamentally, they are all crazy, just looking like normal people. However, being crazy is really crazy, and being strong is also really strong. On the panel, mental state abnormality degree. 37% and corresponding chakra strength/recovery speed increase. 370% and Gindan ninjutsu/illusion strength increase. 370% made Dareni understand where the power of Uchiha comes from. The more nervous, the more paranoid, the stronger. Chakra itself is linked to spiritual energy, coupled with the increased conversion of Uchiha's bloodline and Sharingan, therefore, a strong and passionate emotional state that burns oneself, a stubborn and pure mental state that leads to paranoia and even neuroticism, are these themselves the driving forces behind the strength of the Uchiha clan. Good guy, this is a naturally crazy guy. The more crazy he is, the stronger he becomes, the more crazy he becomes. If this were the world of sea tigers and there were magnetic field maniacs in the world, the Uchiha clan would have taken off long ago. Suddenly, I understood how I felt in front of 1,000 hands. There was a group of potential lunatics living next door, and anyone would be in a panic if they were to change. No wonder he insisted on confining the Uchiha clan to the village and trying to brainwash them into normal people, washed white and weakened chicken. No wonder later on, the strength of the Uchiha clan was so overwhelming, they have been washed into normal brain circuits and thinking patterns by several generations of Hokage. If a crazy guy doesn't go crazy, how can he have such strength? No, there are actually 3 crazy ones. The hard power of 3 pairs of kaleidoscopes can make any big ninja village have to remain calm and choose peaceful coexistence no matter what. Then, 2 were equivalent to committing suicide, and 1 in turn destroyed his entire clan. This crazy thinking pattern and behavioral rules are really confusing. You are truly a madman. The great benevolence and righteousness that also opened the kaleidoscope will unconsciously roast about the brain circuits of other kaleidoscope hosts, and felt that he had figured out a lot of problems. After figuring out his kaleidoscope pupil technique and feeling happy, he finally realized that he was hungry. He got up and walked into the kitchen, heating the cooked food he had packed home in the microwave. After a while, with a squeak sound, the kitchen door was opened by someone. Dareni, who was enjoying his meal, didn't lift his head and asked, "Do you want to eat?" There is a bit of sincerity in the tone, but not much. "Don't eat, you've finished everything." A girl with just woken up tear stains is so angry and funny that treating someone to eat is too perfunctory. "I guess you must have no appetite, so I didn't leave it for you." Dareni didn't look any embarrassed. He swallowed the last piece of meat in his mouth, and then his face turned serious. Looking directly into the girl's eyes, she asked seriously, "Did you open the kaleidoscope at that time? What is your pupil surgery ability?" Yuzhibo's expression was somewhat melancholic, and he recalled the moment when he was very close to death. The name of the pupil technique is Great Lord, the left eye ability is Fake Death, and the right eye ability is Substitute Death. To die for is to engrave a mark on someone else, which is permanently effective and automatically resurrected after death. Unfortunately, only one mark can be engraved on a person at the same time, and it needs to be re-engraved after resurrection. Fake death is the process of engraving a mark on oneself, which automatically takes effect upon one's own death. It can also be used proactively to create a false self to replace one's own death. No wonder those root ninjas, immersed in my illusions, had a real corpse in their false illusions. Dareni pondered over the pupil technique that had never appeared in these 2 original works, and his ability to recharge resurrection coins for others and himself was a bit outrageous. The level of bugs was not inferior to that of Dai 2's Divine Power Kaleidoscope. "Thank you, Brother E. I didn't expect you to save me." Yuzhibo pursed his lips, his cheeks slightly flushed, and he looked straight into Dareni's eyes, as if he wanted to see something. "Ego, your strength. I never expected it at all. You've been hidden for so many years, why take the risk this time? I never thought what would happen if you were discovered." "Of course I have thought about it, that's why I've deliberately distanced myself over the years and haven't contacted you for a long time." Dareni's face was plain, as if he had never shed blood or tears from beginning to end, and he continued to pierce the girl's heart. "To be honest, I never expected to take the risk to save you." "Well, I was quite surprised myself." The girl was stunned and gave a serious warning. "Egu, you. Don't say anything if you don't know how to speak. Don't call me brother. We're the same age, and I'm even a few months younger than you." Dareni continued to play the role of a straight man, inexplicably correcting her incorrect title. Yuzhibo burst out laughing with a puff, recalling scenes from his childhood and memories with curved smiling eyes. "You have always been like an adult since childhood, but you are always serious, especially good at taking care of people, and know a lot. I have always been taken care of by you, and of course, I treat you like a brother." "I understand, is it a family relationship between siblings?" Dareni nodded solemnly. Yuzhibo's mouth curved with a smile, and he walked forward, reaching out to embrace his neck. The soft and warm body of the girl squeezed into his arms. As soon as they looked up, their cheeks pressed tightly together, and they closed their eyes to feel the warmth of his cheeks. They murmured, "No, the family relationship has gone bad." Dareni remained silent, then reached out and hugged her tightly. After a long time, the tear mole girl spoke up and asked, "What is your kaleidoscope writing ability?" "Don't say you don't have it, I also felt your sudden increase in pupil strength at that time. One is devouring and plundering, and the other is evolutionary perfection, using the energy obtained from devouring and plundering to improve oneself and evolve to higher and stronger levels. Yuzhibo chuckled lightly and said, "Hey, why doesn't it seem to have nothing to do with me? Even when I opened the kaleidoscope, I was thinking of you." Darini's eyes remained unchanged, as if his sensitive ears didn't itch at all. As soon as he spoke, he continued to repeatedly probe on the brink of death. "Yes, after opening the kaleidoscope, I realized that I didn't seem to love you as much as I imagined. The kaleidoscope is the eye that captures the soul. Men can speak sweet words, but kaleidoscope pupil surgery is absolutely not deceiving." Yuzhibo gritted his teeth in anger, clenching his fists in hatred and pounding his shoulder. He was angry but couldn't help but laugh. "You should tell me that you have discovered that only with stronger strength can you protect the person you like, and only then will you awaken to such pupil techniques." Darini snorted lightly, with a look of arrogance and disdain on his face. "I wouldn't lie just to please women. I'll just tell the truth." Looking at his stubborn appearance, recalling the atmosphere of childhood, Yuzhibo was both angry and funny. His nose trembled and he hummed softly twice, quietly leaning against his shoulder. After a while, she finally remembered the annihilated Uchiha clan, and her eyes dimmed. "Unfortunately, my mother and all of them." As expected, Darini hugged her shoulder and led her towards the basement. Inside the waterproof and insulated container securely protected by multiple layers of metal boxes, he took out 5 seal scrolls and introduced them. Kiba's forbidden technique of rebirth from the filthy soil can use body tissues to summon the soul of the deceased back to the human world, and with some special forbidden techniques, the deceased can be resurrected. Yuzhibo was a bit confused, with too much information and a bit too sudden. He asked foolishly, "Are the body tissues of your parents and mine sealed in the scroll? When did you get my parents' body tissue? Who else owns the sealing scroll?" Looking at the silly girl, Darini couldn't hold his expression any longer and burst out laughing on the spot, his voice unconsciously becoming gentle. "After the night of the 9 tails, when I helped bury your father and take care of your mother, as for the 5th sealed scroll, of course, your body tissue was collected in advance, so I said, I shouldn't have saved you, and I'm not prepared to save you." "What? My childhood sweetheart planned to watch me die without intending to save me, but unfortunately, she had prepared a plan to resurrect herself in advance. So here comes the question, does this man love himself or not?" Yuzhibo opened his mouth foolishly, feeling that this question was a bit brain-burning. The CPU in his brain was almost burning out. "Why did you suddenly change your mind again?" The girl with a tear mole huddled in his arms, desperately pinching and twisting the soft flesh around his waist with hatred. Darini also hugged her tightly and whispered, "I couldn't resist it at that time." End of this chapter. Chapter 4. Troubles and Troubles. Start causing trouble. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 4. Troubles and Troubles. Start causing trouble. Darini, who had never planned to stand in front of the stage, now has the golden finger and the resurrection coin provider of Yuzhibo. His heart is somewhat swollen. "I started thinking about whether or not to do something, especially since my girlfriend just passed away and my whole family. It doesn't seem appropriate for me to say nothing." "How did you escape from the Uchiha tribe's territory?" Yuzhibo felt a bit embarrassed and murmured in a low voice, "I'm not in the clan territory tonight. I'm used to sneaking around this street without telling my family at night. Take a look." Darini is speechless. "Yes, this is very wise, no wonder it can bloom a kaleidoscope. Those 2 dark ninjas first attacked me, and I got injured and ran away. Just as I was about to call for help, they said, Yuzhibo's rebellion failed, and he has been executed by the dark side. I am the last one." Yuzhibo continued to add, feeling dejected. Although she was mentally prepared for the changes in the situation, it was still difficult for her to accept when the situation came to an end. Her hometown, which carried all her memories, suddenly became an enemy, causing pain and no fighting spirit. The girl's heart was left with only confusion. "Let's go," It's not dawn yet. Let's go to the Yuzhibo tribe's place first. Dareni, who had a preliminary plan in his heart, was very proactive, with a faint sense of expectation to cause trouble and watch the excitement. He pulled the girl out and explained to her as he walked. Outside the territory of the Uchiha tribe, the sealed barrier between the inside and outside has been removed. The newly built building, which has only been built for a few years, is once again stained with blood. This time, it is not from the turmoil in Jiuwei, but from the ruthless slaughter of fellow villagers and fellow ethnic groups. Lord Tuanzang, it has been cleaned up. Except for Uchiha Sasuke and the Uchiha Itachi, all the bodies of the Uchiha tribe members have been collected and their identities have been determined, and there have been no leaks. Very good, done well. Jitsuan Tuanzang, leaning on a cane, was very satisfied and excited. He even rarely praised his subordinates' tools and eliminated the hidden troubles of Yuzhibo, which can be considered as another proof that he did better than the monkey flying sun / even teacher Kazuma can't say that I can't compare to monkey flying sun / this time, can he? Not far away, over 100 root ninjas are sealing the recovered bodies of the Uchiha clan into a scroll, which are valuable experimental materials that cannot be wasted. But what they didn't know was that the bodies they were sealing and preserving at the moment had been replaced with debris such as stones, wooden boards, and straw, and even the replacements were openly operating in front of them without their noticing. Egu, what kind of illusion is this? It's so exaggerated. You also used this illusion when you saved me just now, right? Yuzhibo couldn't help feeling sad as he carefully collected the corpses of his peers, while also curious and delighted about the mystery and power of Dareni. Dareni maintained the gesture of forming a seal with both hands, his chakra surging inside his body and his kaleidoscope writing wheel slowly rotating in his eyes, blessing the power of illusion. On the semi-transparent deep blue panel, the two entries, chakra strength / recovery speed increase 370% and Gin Dun Ninjutsu / illusion skill strength increase 370% sparkle faintly at the same time. The multiplication of the two amplifications brought incredible amplification to this already powerful illusion. Hundreds of elite ninjas on site were all played within applause, all senses were deceived, and everything within reach was illusory. The world seems to be divided into two different dimensions, reality, and illusion. The inner and outer worlds are separated, close but far away. My mother left me with an elder who opened a kaleidoscope in her own tribe, and I was greatly inspired by the analysis of illusion principles and research and development experiences recorded by Yuzhibo. Originally, I wanted to develop a powerful illusion called Mirror Flower Water Moon, which can permanently and absolutely manipulate other people's perception, but later I found that it was too difficult. I tried my best to develop a version that can barely control and affect other people's five senses in a short time, more similar to the blood inheritance limit of the pummeled horse family. I, who have a heart full of unwillingness, drew inspiration from the technique of Naroki, which allows people to see the most fearful images in their hearts. I incorporated the ability to influence emotions into it, and the result was the current illusion, which I refer to as 7 emotions, 6 desires, and 5 aggregates are confusing. Legend has it that the vast expanse of the mortal world is the most poisonous thing, capable of submerging all immortals and gods, causing them to fall into the mortal world, enduring all sorrow and pain, and finding it difficult to transcend. My ultimate ideal for this technique is this, hoping that it can be elevated into my vast realm of the mortal world. Time, space, pure power, and spiritual soul are all fields with infinite potential that can reach the highest realm. I hope that after this technique is truly completed, even the strong ones at the level of the 6 immortals will still be blinded to their minds, confused with perception, and blocked from memory, losing the ability to perceive and control one's own physical body and chakra, experiencing the sorrows and pains of the world under endless emotional impact, causing mental confusion and mental breakdown. At this point of boasting, Dareni lowered his head awkwardly and looked at his hands, which he had to seal in order to maintain the illusion effect. He tried his best to hold himself in awe. That's just the ultimate fantasy, and I'm still far from being able to complete it. I need more techniques and materials related to spiritual soul and emotions to supplement it. No, it's already too powerful now. What you're saying is just fantasy, right? The girl couldn't help roast. At this moment, Yuzhibo had already sealed the corpses of his tribe into the large seal scroll he was carrying behind him. He stood up and walked towards Tuanzai not far away, with a look of hatred that was eager to try. Are you going to kill him? Darini also walked over, his voice very gentle, as if asking whether to eat breakfast or drink water. Not for now. According to EGE's plan, he will live even more miserably than die. I will wait for him to lose everything and despair beyond measure, and then personally kill him in front of everyone in Kiba, in the name of executing treason. Okay, you decide. Then I'll charge a little interest first. When Darini walked within a 3-meter radius of Jitsuan Tuan's hiding place, he finally sensed something was wrong. His nerve response, like a needle prick, reminded him of the danger, but the distance was too late. By the time he reacted, the battle had already ended. Continuously escaping for over 100 meters, the Payne nerves finally react and realize what they have lost. Tuanzang raised his hand with only one left arm and caressed the empty hole in his right eye. His right arm was already empty and nowhere to be found, with blood gushing out from his severed limb. Sorry, I seem a bit too rough, Master Tuanzang. Using the transformation technique, Darini changed his body shape and, wearing a black robe and a mask, did not pursue him. Instead, he quietly placed the seal on the Sharingan and Mu Dun's arm in place, then changed his voice, and his tone became icy cold. Master Tuanzang, are my eyes easy to use? Stop water. How could it be? Uchiha Itachi clearly said you're already dead. Tuanzang's face changed greatly. He was very familiar with this voice line, and coupled with the eyes that few people knew, could it be? No, it's impossible, pretend to be a ghost. Kill him. Quickly stopping his blood, Tuanzang's face was unprecedentedly gloomy and angry. Under the protection of more than 100 elite ninjas at the base, he was almost carrying a ninja army with him. In the midst of the army, he was stunned by someone. Previously, he launched a surprise attack on Yuzhibo Jishui and was then knocked down by his one-eyed Kaisuzo, which made him feel ashamed of his life. Now, he's back. Is this the only way for my Jitsuan Tuanzang to cook? He can't figure it out. His emotions are a bit out of control. The root ninjas, who specialize in assassination, do not have the habit of shouting big names when they start and silently cooperate with each other. The overwhelming insect clouds, scorching and rapid fireballs, spinning and galloping wind blades, rock and earth guns piercing from the feet, and inconspicuous pitch-black shadows extending from corners, have sealed off the possibility of escaping from any place in all directions. In theory, one can only try to defend and then enter the opponent's attack rhythm, almost approaching chronic death. After all, defending for a long time is inevitable, and most ninjas are fragile with high attack and low defense. Being hit by any ninjutsu has the possibility of death, and even suffering nothing can be fatal. They are very professional and worthy of the reputation of being elite. Unfortunately, we encountered a super-standard presence today, especially since the opponent is not planning to play fair combat or direct confrontation yet. Darini has always been a person who doesn't talk about martial arts. In his past life, he was just a disabled person. When playing games and rubbing skills, his reaction was always at least a bit slow, and he was so anxious that he was always beaten by technical and micro skills. Due to the psychological shadow of his past life, he is very skeptical of his own combat intelligence. Throughout my life, I have been devoted to development and have never killed anyone, not to mention the various intelligence tests, weaknesses, and battle plans that go beyond the limits of ordinary people in the original anime. At the same time, in the fierce battle, thinking about adjusting the combat plan, adapting to various circumstances, and using a flash of inspiration to defeat weak points and strong enemies. A series of outrageous operations, just thinking about it makes his scalp tingle. This is the rhythm of balding. Darini refused this. He only wanted to crush the opponent and rely on hard attributes to kill them. He didn't even want to play the kind of 5-or-5 open, passionate life fighting, and various life and death frontline battles. When encountering an opponent who cannot be crushed, he will only give a slight probing when he has absolute safety assurance. It is highly likely to drive away directly, avoid overturning, and wait until one develops enough to crush the opponent before coming back to find a place, without paying any attention to the so-called dignity of a strong person. The illusion technique of 7 emotions and 6 desires, 5 aggregates and confusion was developed for this purpose. It is not only a vegetable abuse technique, but also convenient for him to run away at any time if he finds something wrong. At this moment, the figure of the black-robed mask seemed like a phantom, and all the attacks only passed through him without leaving any trace. When did I give you the illusion of breaking free from it once and not falling into it for the second time without a sound? What you see, hear, and perceive about me is just an illusion I have left for you. Darini strode past a root ninja, and the newly picked samurai sword in his hand ran across his neck. The gushing fountain of blood surged up the head level that had just separated from his neck, then the blade lifted and the tip lifted, and another base ninja, blindfolded, rushed towards him, piercing his own heart. Mercilessly drawing a knife, wielding and chopping, the moment the blade pierced into the chest of the third root ninja, the insect cloud erupted, and countless harmful insects rushed out of his body, either in a ball or in a stream, enveloping everything around him. A group of oily women. Not bad, quite capable. A burst of smoke rose up, and Darini directly lifted the shadow clone and dissipated. Surprisingly, only a clone appeared to harvest. The oil female dragon horse, who was briefly awakened from the illusion stimulated by the threat of death, was shocked to the point of despair upon seeing this scene. Is it still so cautious under such an advantage? What kind of person is this? Can you have a little bit of ninja's awareness of risking their lives to fight? In the next moment, his eyes became once again confused, unsure of what kind of illusion he had fallen into. End of this chapter. Chapter 5. The Ape Flying Sun / Killed the Wave Feng Shui Gate. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 5. The Ape Flying Sun / Killed the Wave Feng Shui Gate. Step on. With the sound of footsteps, another great benevolence and righteousness appeared out of thin air. No need to ask, this must also be a shadow clone. In the eyes of Jitsuan Tuanzang, the scene before him was eerie, with some root ninjas releasing ninjutsu and killing each other. The other part is like headless flies colliding around or standing still, and then being casually killed by the figure of the black-robed mask, completely harvesting rice on the battlefield. Is Jishui really not dead? Did Itachi deceive me? Or was he also deceived? This illusion is unbelievable. All perceptions have been cut off and deceived, and it should still be a multiple illusion, covering all ninjas on the field. Closing your eyes, or even poking your eyes blind, is useless. Illusion should not only work through vision, but may also work through all senses such as hearing, smell, and touch, which is why it has such a powerful deception effect. Can illusions be so strong? Who else can do it besides having the strongest illusion magic kaleidoscope of the Uchiha clan? Water stop. What should we do about this? Cautiously standing in the distance, collecting intelligence from his subordinates that ninjas had been searching for, Tuanzang's scalp became tingling as he looked at it. This is not scientific or ninja. Did the dead suddenly attack me? Who understands this feeling? Are you looking for loopholes and flaws in my illusion? A ghostly voice sounded in Tuanzai's ear, startling him to dodge again. Foam done vacuum jade. A prepared and instant wind escape ninjutsu attacked in the direction of the sound, and the chakra wind swarm spit out from Tuanzang's mouth covered the direction like a bullet, hoping to force out the enemy. Unfortunately, the direction is reversed. I'm here. The mournful voice of the bone-attached maggot seemed to be tightly attached to Tuanzang, as if it was coming back to his ears from the direction he had escaped, as if he was close at hand. Foam done vacuum jade. Tuanzang remained silent, quickly imprinting with one hand. The high-pressure wind ball spewed out of his mouth expanded and expanded into tens of meters in size, and a rapid and sharp airflow storm covered his other side, trying to tear down the hidden enemy. Roaming and rumbling. The roaring sharp airflow once again plunged into the air, only demolishing an innocent building within the Uchiha tribe's territory. The directly hit part was crushed into mustard dust, while the further buildings collapsed in the roaring vibration, with bricks, stones, pillars, and wood shattered and falling into a mess. How terrifying, how terrifying. Lord Tuanzang is so strong that he is like a monster, actually able to make the legendary one-handed seal, and the power of the released ninjutsu is so amazing. Unfortunately, it didn't hit a bridge, otherwise it would have been even more fitting. With a silent and powerful kick, accompanied by an inconspicuous mockery and praise, it accurately hit Tuanzang's back, bang. Dong, dong, dong. In the next moment, with a face full of confusion and disbelief, Tuanzang's speed was so fast that he almost left a remnant in place, fiercely smashing towards the ground 100 meters away. After colliding and bouncing 3 times on the ground, the Q-bomb crashed into the ruins it had just created using ninjutsu, and remained silent. It turned out that under the illusion of deception, the ninjutsu he had just released twice was always in the same direction, and the shadow clone of Darini was always standing behind him. First, he quietly gave him some room to play, and then mercilessly defeated and crushed him, crushing the dignity of Tuanzang as well. Remember, from beginning to end, you have been immersed in the illusion I have created for you. Jie Jianli received a heavy blow, and Tuanzang, who had already lost Mu Dun's arm and Sharingan, was severely injured. His back vertebrae were completely fractured, and his internal organs were damaged and displaced. During the process of bouncing up from the collision with the ground, the head was violently impacted and shaken, the skull was partially shattered, and even some cerebrospinal fluid flowed out through both ears, leaving bruises and blood all over the body. Tuanzang shook his dizzy and almost fainting head, and was caught off guard by continuous een and sneak attacks. He had almost lost his combat ability. The only remaining means is the sealing technique of 4-elephant sealing, which means sacrificing everything together. However, this requires deceiving the enemy to come to his side and then taking advantage of his victory to be arrogant and careless. There is only one chance. You're not Shirzwa couldn't have hit the ninjas in the same village so hard. No need to play. Tuanzang was already seriously injured and dying, and naturally revealed his weakness and powerlessness while speaking, which made people relax their vigilance. In a previous life, it would be best for such an injury to be completely paralyzed, and one could even prepare for the aftermath. However, in the realm of ninja, such an injury can still be saved. People who have died once will naturally be different, let alone those who have just witnessed the complete downfall of their family. Yuzhibo Zhishui did not approach as Tuanzang had hoped, but instead stood still, telling his newly fabricated story in a deep and painful tone. After being attacked by you, I pretended to be dead and hid behind the scenes. On the one hand, I wanted to help the weasel open the kaleidoscope. On the other hand, I was entrusted by the chief of Fuyue clan to investigate something secretly under the orders of Huoying, the 4th generation. Yuzhibo Fuyue clan chief has never been someone who has no independent opinions and only knows how to close his eyes and wait for death. In the chaotic and complex situation, he accurately identified the problem and found a truly correct path. He entrusted me with the important task of saving the Uchiha clan and the entire village of Kiba, but I never expected that the method used by the Fuyue clan leader to numb you would become the reason for his own death. How could you be so decisive? But even if you destroy the Uchiha clan, you can't continue to conceal the truth. I followed the mysterious masked man who can control the 9 tails and master the time-space ninjutsu tonight, and I saw your collaboration with clear division of labor and tacit cooperation. Sure enough, Chief Fuyue's speculation is not wrong. 7 years ago, the real culprits who released 9 tails to harm Mai and forced the death of the 4th generation Hokage couple were you. After the disaster, the 3 generations of Hokage Monkey Flying Sun Slash and his loyal dog-legged son Jitsuan Tuanzang have been restored. What? Jitsuan Tuanzang is already confused and angry. What? Am I the loyal henchman of the monkey flying sun slash? I really blinded your eyes. Where did you come to the conclusion from? How insulting. No, it's not important for now. What's more important is that the monkey flying sun slash releases the 9 tails and forces the death wave Feng Shui gate. What is this all about? It's so outrageous. How could that guy from the monkey flying sun slash possibly do this? What is this guy who seems to be talking nonsense about, Yuzhibo Jishui? Humph, incompetent slander. The feelings between Riju and Kiba are not something that you rebellious people can understand. We are the roots and trunk of Kiba, and with our support and protection, Kiba, this big tree, can flourish and proudly stand at the top of the ninja world. Yes, you deeply love Konoha, but with the passage of time, this fanatical love has twisted and deteriorated into a selfless and possessive desire that disregards everything. In your hearts, it's better to say that the leaves of wood belong to you than to say that you belong to the leaves of wood. The tone of Darini, who disguised himself as Yuzhibo Jishui, was deep and sincere, and he fully immersed himself in the performance. In order to become a Hokage, one can design a Hokage that targets assassination and entrapment, believing in oneself as the most outstanding Hokage. Even if Kiba temporarily pays some price for it, it is only a temporary pain. As long as everyone endures, the future will definitely be better when they become Huoying, for the sake of the sake of the village, and to welcome the best Hokage, we must first suffer the innocent victims in the village. Monkey flying sun slash and you, that's the kind of person. In order to become Hokage again, you would really do this. Control the 9 tails and attack and kill the current 4th Hokage. Jitsuan Tuanzang was stunned, and for a moment he was so flustered that he was completely lost in thought. If the position of Hokage was right in front of him, would he do this? Just once again, lies won't hurt anyone, the truth is the sharp sword. Jitsuan Group has broken the defense. Because he is such a person, he has done this before. What about the monkey flying sun slash? Will monkey flying sun slash also become like him? He never thought before, did he just believe that the character of ape flying sun slayer far surpasses himself? Impossible, the character of a monkey cannot be better than oneself. It must be because he was deceived and misled by the monkey flying sun, to the extent that he never doubted him. Jitsuan Tuanzai was crawling in the ruins, feeling much more pain and discomfort in his heart than in his body, just like how a scumbag suddenly realizes that his innocent girlfriend, who has always held a guilty heart towards her, is actually a well-known female Sea King and Tea Master who has cheated on her, but instead has been PUA by her, angry from embarrassment, raging with lightning. Incompetent and furious, I only had a shallow attempt without much hope in the past, but the monkey flying sun slash not only did it without telling me, but it actually succeeded. Taking such a big risk and carrying such a bad reputation, I haven't even been a Huoying for a day. After the monkey flying sun slash abdicated, he unexpectedly returned to be the Hokage for another 7 years. This, Jitsuan Tuan's hidden teeth have all been bitten to pieces. Pushing oneself to others and using one's own thinking to speculate about others, he has already believed 50 to 60% of these lies. Wait a minute, I was also deceived by the villain of the ape flying sun slash, and I never knew about it. Since you want to save Kiba and overthrow the black-hearted conspirator of the ape flying sun slash, I can cooperate with you. Under the stimulation of great shock and anger, Jitsuan Tuanzang, who had a quick thinking, no longer wanted to die with others. He only wanted to be the Hokage and worked hard to confide in the rebellious Uchiha he had seen before. When the monkey flying sun slash is overthrown, I will be the Hokage, and you will rebuild the Uchiha clan. As the future Hokage, I promise that the Uchiha clan will always be the top powerful family of Kiba. Darini wants to roll his eyes. This old man doesn't even know how to draw pancakes. It's already time, and his own life is in someone else's hands. He's reluctant to give up the position of Huoying temporarily verbally, without a promise of a position in the Hokage. why lure someone else's shadow-level boss onto your small, sinking ship? However, the performance still needs to continue. No need, I won't cooperate with people with blood-stained companions on my hands. The disgusted voice of Yuzhibo stopping water reached Tuanzai's ears, and his heart tightened. The next moment of stopping water made him relax, even ecstatic. You are the elder of the village, and I will not commit suicide without authorization. I will try to tell the truth to every ninja and commoner in the village, and then let you and the monkey-flying son be beheaded. Under the gaze of everyone, you will receive a fair and strict judgment, to console the spirits of Uchiha and allow all innocent and unjust victims and victims of the past few decades to rest in peace. You will die, but not in the act of rebellion, but in the name of rebellion and execution. Jitsuan Tuan was laughing wildly in his heart, trying to suppress his emotions to avoid being detected by Jishui. Stop water, you who have died once are still so naive. The truth. Sometimes it's important, but sometimes it's not important at all. The family behind the monkey-flying son / and the many ninja tribes in the village have already formed a group with interests and reputations connected. Even if it is truly certain that the monkey-flying sun slayer has done such a wrong thing, considering the overall reputation and interests, it is impossible for him to bear the blame and be publicly judged. At most, it's just a matter of retiring from the position of Hokage on the grounds of old age and disappearing into obscurity, and then one's own opportunity will come. As for the fairness and justice you expect from Uchiha Water Stop, you must retreat and make concessions in the face of the reality of Kiba. What you will never see. End of this chapter. Chapter 6. Deep Blue, add some points to show me your limits. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 6 Deep Blue, add some points to show me your limits. When Jitsuan Tuanzang struggled to climb out of the ruins, there was no one outside, only him alone. When Yuzhibo Jishui left, he not only killed all the root ninjas present, but also took away all the corpses, leaving nothing for Tuanzang. At this moment, Dareni has already walked away with Yuzhibo Spring and arrived at another deserted forest, starting to count the gains of brushing treasure chests, one by one. With low risk and high returns, no wonder Tuanzang has almost become a must-have monster for travelers to the Fire Shadow world. You need to brush him again next time. Dareni took out the water-stopping Kaleidoscope Sharingan, as well as the wooden arm of Tuanzang that had not yet been embedded with too many Sharingan. The colorless and transparent flames spread out eagerly, enveloping it in flames and slowly burning, gradually devouring and plundering its vitality and strength. On the deep blue panel that appeared before my eyes, the numbers before the percentile and the physical reserve energy. 0% and spiritual reserve energy. 0% attribute columns began to slowly rise bit by bit. Yuzhibo leaned over and, as if inviting credit, raised his camera in front of him, enthusiastically playing the video recording he had just filmed. In the video, the righteous lines of Yuzhibo water stopping, and the heavy tone of carrying all the pain, were undoubtedly the nameless heroes who hid in the darkness to save the world, and Tuanzang is naturally a despicable clown used to set off the heroic and majestic image. As for the absent third-generation Hokage monkey-flying sun / it has completely become the image of the villainous conspirator and backstage boss that must be defeated in the movie. Okay. Remember to add more videos and pictures of the elderly, women, and children of the Uchiha clan who died tragically at the beginning of the video, with corpses piled up in mountains. The worse the footage, the better. We will go to the human experimental base at the route later and add all the information and records there. Dareni is quite satisfied with the quality of the video and is increasingly looking forward to his future plans. I don't know what kind of interesting scenes it will be. 10 minutes later, 20 minutes later, and 30 minutes later, the water-stopping kaleidoscope riding wheel eye and the wooden arm implanted within pillar cells were finally completely squeezed out, turning into ashes and falling from the colorless transparent flame. The reserve energy on the deep blue panel had risen to physical reserve energy 500% and spiritual reserve energy 400%, respectively. Is it much higher than my initial built-in energy? Is it because most of my kaleidoscope's energy is used to construct deep blue panels? And is the waterproof kaleidoscope purely for burning, purely for fuel? Is physical energy reserve higher than mental energy reserve? Because of Uchiha's bloodline. At the same 100%, my mental energy storage bar is naturally longer than my physical energy storage bar. What is the special significance of saving 100%? Intuition told Darini that this was very special. After thinking about it, he drew his knife and cut it in the palm of his hand. As a result, he hasn't been cut, and after adding some physical strength, he really doesn't look much like an ordinary ninja anymore. After applying more force, the wound broke through and oozed blood. The entry for physical reserve energy 500% on the deep blue panel lit up, but the value did not change. The wound instantly stopped bleeding and healed. With a little more effort, the wound was very deep this time and could barely be considered a minor injury on the battlefield. The wound still stopped bleeding and healed instantly, and the value remained unchanged. Darini's face changed, he took a deep breath, gritted his teeth, and slashed fiercely at his wrist. Blood gushed out from his arterial blood vessels, and the white stubble of his wrist bone, which had been cut out, was faintly visible. In the next moment, the growth of bones and the rolling of granulation are like videos that have accelerated countless times. Injuries that require cultivation and treatment for at least a few months or even longer in the past life heal instantly. On the deep blue panel, the entry for physical reserve energy 500% finally agreed and reluctantly lowered it to physical reserve energy 499.999%. Hiss, it hurts. It hurts so much. Although it was only for a moment, the pain still made Darini gasp for breath, and even tears almost flowed down due to physiological instincts. Yuzhibo was really surprised. He never expected that Darini, who was so mysterious and powerful that it seemed like everything was under his control, would be afraid of pain. It's still because of a small wound. I'm not a ninja, just an ordinary commoner. What's the problem with being afraid of pain? Except for the night of the Nine Tails Rebellion, I have never been injured from childhood to adulthood, said Darini with a righteous and resolute expression. No problem, it's quite cute. The girl with a tear mole is holding back her smile, with a shy expression on her face. She can laugh at this matter for a lifetime. 0.001% of physical reserve energy can instantly cure such injuries, so 100% of physical reserve energy may mean a life, or saving a fatal injury in terms of physical fitness. Does it seem to overlap with Quan's kaleidoscope pupil technique? It doesn't matter, it's better to have more hands to protect one's life. Darini ignored the young girl and continued to analyze the deep blue panel. Obviously, whether it was devouring or consuming, less than 0.001% would not be displayed on the panel. How much reserve energy can other ninjas have on the panel, except for the kaleidoscope Sharingan and pillar cells, which possess powerful yin and yang dun energies? Yuzhibo had already taken out all the root ninja corpses she had sealed and preserved. Darini stood next to the piled-up corpses, releasing a colorless transparent flame, and then waited quietly. After more than 10 minutes, more than 100 corpses turned into ashes. Looking at the entries in front of me that read, physical reserve energy 563% and mental reserve energy 412%, Darini remained silent. Perhaps only when life is transformed into intuitive numbers for comparison can the huge gap between people be truly reflected. Hundreds of elite ninjas stacked together, far inferior to the eyeball of Uchiha's water stop and the arm of cells proliferating between the 1,000-handed pillars, absurd yet reasonable. If they were to burn it while they were still alive, the stored energy converted would probably be more, but on the one hand, this flame can only burn within 3 meters of my body, and the burning speed is surprisingly slow. On the other hand, I really can't do the thing of burning people and their souls together now. Darini was clear that as long as humans were caught alive and tied up and burned slowly, as long as there were enough, he would definitely obtain a large amount of reserve energy. However, he was not very willing to do so, not only because the concepts from his past life constrained him, it's also because once this kind of thing is done too much, if it's defeated, then you can't even wash it away. If you want to, you can't easily walk all the way to the dark. This is too risky, even those who risk their lives won't do it. Don't rush for quick success and instant benefits, hold your ground first when facing difficulties. Putting aside distractions, Dareni is prepared to leave 112% of his spiritual reserve energy and 163% of his physical reserve energy as a precautionary measure, while all the rest will be used to enhance his physical and mental health. Is it too late to be invincible in the world of tolerance at the age of 13? At this time, apart from the uncertain level of the second god in Payne, I should have basically crushed everyone else when I hit them. I can have today's strength thanks to my own talent and hard work. Deep Blue, give me some extra points and let me see your limits. End of this chapter. Chapter 7. The Somewhat Outrageous Susanobu. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 7. The Somewhat Outrageous Susanobu. Taking a long sigh of relief, Dareni lifted his spirits and pressed his fingers hard towards the plus sign in front of physique and spirit. In the next moment, the whole world became different. The life evolution process that organisms need to spend tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of years, to complete with difficulty seems to have been compressed into a brief moment, and it also seems to have experienced an incredibly long time in this moment. Dareni regained consciousness from his ignorance, feeling that his life form seemed to have been partially filled in both genes and soul. There was an illusion, or intuition, that he had already transcended the human species and evolved to a higher level in advance. Will this evolution lead to reproductive isolation from ordinary humans? After all, in the later stages, genetically speaking, they are no longer the same species. No wonder in various myths, legends, and novels, the stronger the existence, the more difficult it is to give birth to offspring. The stronger the existence, the more severe the alienation of one's own genes, and the greater the genetic differences between ethnic groups. The probability of giving birth to offspring naturally decreases, and the principle is quite scientific. Dareni glanced at Yuzhibo, who was standing quietly waiting beside him, and suddenly some strange thoughts drifted through his mind. I'm only 13 years old now, it's too early, not to at the same time. In both pupils, the kaleidoscope writing will eyes bloomed, and both the individual sickle patterns and the twisted flame patterns formed by the three sickles became more complex and magnificent. They had not yet evolved to the next level, but they were also approaching. The properties displayed on the deep blue panel have also undergone significant changes. Plus physical fitness. 15 physical reserve energy. 163% plus spirit. 20 spiritual reserve energy. 112% abnormal degree of mental state. 37% chakra strength/recovery speed increase. 370% in-done ninjutsu/illusion skill strength increase. 370% Suzunan. The two kaleidoscope writing wheels resonate with each other, and the three sickle patterns in their eyes rotate inward, contract, and interlock, as if colliding with each other to emit a resounding sound belonging to cold weapons, jointly releasing the magnificent technique known as divine power. Dareni did not fully unleash the divine power that symbolized destruction and death. Instead, he tried his best to control his restraint. The fierce and roaring in-done chakra was released through his eyes and condensed into substance outside of his body. First, there are huge ribs and arms, then countless bones form a whole, transforming into a half-body pitch-black skeleton giant that is over 10 meters high. Then, meridians and flesh grow between the bones, and the surface of the body gives rise to the chakra coat. Two weapons, one sword, are carried across the back, giving rise to the chakra coat. The colorless and transparent flames quietly burned on the sword, dyed into a deathly gray-black by the pitch-black sword. Just a glance from a distance gave a sense of panic and lethality that was about to erase all vitality. The chest of the half-bodied giant was also adorned with a transparent circular mirror. Yuzhibo looked up and felt his consciousness drift for a moment. like falling into a dream, joy, anger, sorrow, and fear flooded her heart, and countless negative emotions and thoughts that had settled in her mind surged. She dared not look any more and quickly turned her head. Daruni felt that he had not yet reached his limit, and it was not a problem to directly activate the entire form of Susanobu. His body also did not feel any discomfort or pain. Is it because of a stronger physique, or is it because after some evolution, it partially solved the problem caused by genetic defects in the descendants of Magnolia officinalis? He thought for a moment, but didn't pay much attention to it. He slightly moved the half-body giant that enveloped his body, huge but extremely agile, without any signs of being bulky or sluggish, even due to the amplification advantage brought by body shape under the principle of leverage. The movement speed of punches and palms between hands is incredibly fast, far beyond the imagination of ordinary ninjas. Standing close during the attack may not even be able to see the remnants. After a slight perception of the weapons and equipment that he had brought with him, Daruni was somewhat surprised. It seemed that his most skilled illusions had also been fully integrated, the 7 emotions and 6 desires knife and 5 accumulations mysterious sword behind it, as well as the emotional impact and illusion effects inherent in physical attacks. It can also transform the colorless and transparent flames that slowly plunder vitality into gray-black negative energy flames, consuming chakras to directly erase and counteract the enemy's vitality, the 10,000 zhang red dust mirror. On the chest not only has the basic effect of the illusion, 7 emotions, 6 desires, and 5 accumulations confusion, but also has the ultimate special effect called, being in the red dust, heart ascending the other shore. Simply put, it refers to the other shore state that one once fantasized about when entering the study of illusion by Daruni. Invert the positions of reality and illusion, follow your own will to turn reality into illusion, and illusion into reality. In this mode, everything in reality is a dream and bubble, and a change in mind can rewrite everything in reality, allowing you to do whatever you want and achieve what you want. The 10,000 zhang red dust mirror is certainly not so outrageous. Rewriting reality requires the consumption of corresponding chakras, essentially equivalent to a wishing machine without energy. Don't try. Daruni knows that activating this special effect is something he cannot currently afford to consume for chakra. The result of easily causing chaos will only be squeezing oneself into something else. However, there is still no problem with a little basic application. As the mirror flickered with a faint light, the form of Daruni's Susanobu quickly changed, the pitch black turned green, the sword behind disappeared, a spiral sword appeared in the hand, the chakra coat on the body turned into a knight's armor, the transparent mirror on the chest turned into a yin-yang mirror, and all forms quickly approached the stagnant Susanobu. Shouldn't that be enough? It seems that only Tuanzang and the Root have seen the water-stopping Susanobu before. Then we can directly open Susanobu to complete the entire form. The size changes so much, even if there are some differences in details, they will definitely understand and make up for it. Daruni turned his body in satisfaction. Apart from not liking the color very much, the Susanobu, which stops water, was indeed quite handsome in shape. Let's go and make the final preparations. After cancelling the Susanobu, Daruni came to Uchiha and greeted her. The girl, whose chin was almost stunned by a series of fancy changes, replied dumbfounded, "Oh, good." As she spoke, her eyes were filled with envy, so handsome, so beautiful, so envious, so eager. Unfortunately, she has just opened a kaleidoscope and is not a gamer like Daruni. She cannot currently use the Susan 1 unless she is experiencing another major stimulus. Extreme emotions are the right way to cheat for Uchiha. Let's go, it will be dawn in a while, and the preparations before the performance have been done properly. It's time to start the big show. I'm really looking forward to it. End of this chapter. Chapter 8. Uchiha. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 8 Uchiha. At dawn, in the sleeping steel jungle of Mai, countless people had just woken up from their dreams, unaware of the bloody night that had happened countless times last night. They continued their busy and mundane lives, as if they were two parallel worlds separated. At this moment, in the Huoying building, the monkey-flying sun slashed out a deafening roar of anger. It is hard to imagine that such a deafening voice erupted from this thin and short body, Tuanzang. You're crazy, talking nonsense. Did you poke your brain when your spine broke? How could I be that kind of person? Do you think, I am you? His old face turned red with extreme anger, making him feel like his entire lungs were burning, and he could spew out a giant fireball without even needing to seal it. The ferocious expression widened the corners of his eyes, and blood seeped out from it. People in their 70s and 80s were almost buried, but ape-flying Sun Slayer had never suffered such injustice before. Depression, frustration, silence, and anger almost made him lose his sanity, especially if that's the case, it was said from the mouth of his lifelong companion, Jitsuan Tuanzang, which really hurt his heart. Don't he know how good and indulgent he is towards him? All the ninjas in Kiba know how much they spoil him. As long as they don't fall, no matter what mistakes they make, they will be forgiven and let go, and he doesn't know how much criticism and secret pointing he has endured for this. How can you say such hurtful words now? Monkey-flying Sun Slaying felt like he had fed the dog all his true feelings from decades ago. No, Jitsuan Tuanzang is not as good as dogs. Tired and exhausted, the world of ninja is not worth it. Destroy it, everything is destroyed. I didn't expect Jitsuan Tuanzang to be even more angry than him. It's already this time, and he's still pretending to be a White Lotus with him. The grievances and anger of being deceived by a pure female bitch for decades surged in my heart. Emotions suddenly become hysterical. You are ruthless, you are indifferent, you are selfish, you only know how to PUA me, and then let me take the blame for you. Especially the last sentence of the monkey-flying sun / made him break through his defense again. Yes, I'm not as good as you, you're darker than me. I paid the price of carrying all my sins, making myself despised by everyone in the village, but I couldn't be a fire shadow for a day. You have been a Hokage for decades, and after abdication, whoever you want to be a Hokage can be made a Hokage. When you want to be a Hokage, you can be a Hokage anytime. Feng's water gate is blocking the way. Who will die if he doesn't die? The monkey-flying sun / is so angry that it almost spits out blood. What an injustice. He was almost wronged to death. For the first time, he felt the feeling of being inexplicable and unable to argue. Forget it, I won't tell you anymore. You have also been seriously injured, so let's temporarily stop the affairs of the route. Later, I will issue a document ordering the route to disband. You go home and rest well, eat more walnuts and give your brain a good boost. Sitting paralyzed on the armchair, Shimura Tuanzang excitedly patted the desk in front of him and roared, Rizhao, you will regret it. Tuanzang, I am the Hokage. Monkey-flying sun / finally regained a familiar feeling from daily life. He lit his pipe, took a big puff, took a deep breath to swallow the smoke, and slowly exhaled from his nose, experiencing the sensation of passing through his lungs. My spouse is causing trouble without reason. As an old man, what can he do? I can only smoke a cigarette to relieve stress, and then forgive him afterwards. The taste of tobacco this time is a bit bitter. Suddenly, a sound came from afar outside, not too loud to cause discomfort, but under the influence of ninjutsu, it spread throughout the entire wood leaf, inside and outside, and all corners. I am Uchiha Jishue, seeking justice from the third Hokage for the entire Uchiha clan who suffered the extermination of the dark ninjas last night. The monkey-flying sun beheaded you, a despicable little person. Even if you destroyed the Uchiha clan, you can't continue to cover up the fact that you released the Nine Tails 7 years ago and killed the 4 generations of Hokage wave Feng Shui gate. In the office, the monkey flies and the sun slays like a wooden chicken, while the Yuzhibo wave stops water. Didn't Itachi say he was already dead? And, why did he talk nonsense like Tuanzang? What was the situation last night? What happened? Monkey-flying sun / suddenly realized something and turned his head to look at Tuanzang. He didn't tell himself the truth. At least deliberately concealing some information, Ri-Zhan, as I just said, you will definitely regret it. This time it's true. Chuanzang smiled faintly, as if seeing the hope of becoming the Hokage. You. Ape Flying Sun / was in a hurry and didn't have time to ask more questions. He jumped out of the window and ran down the tall building wall perpendicular to the ground. Every step crosses at least one floor, agile like a monkey living in a steel jungle, followed closely by a black-masked ninja squad that suddenly appears from its hiding place. The largest and most bustling commercial district square center within the Wooden Leaf, Darini, who has transformed into the identity of Yuzhibo Water Stop, has made his debut in ink. After the second edition, his physical and mental attributes have undergone a qualitative change, so this time he needs to challenge his limits. Today, the object being hypnotized and blinded by illusion is the entire Wooden Leaf. Although it was early in the morning, under the influence of the prosperous economy, commerce, and trade, there were already quite a few pedestrians on the commercial plaza. Many people who stay up all night and play all night are calling out to friends, pushing and shouting, preparing to go home to sleep and rest. Countless shop owners and service staff who work are constantly flowing on the square, because the commercial district square is located at the most prosperous and convenient road transportation hub in Mai, and the nearby wide streets are crowded with pedestrians and vehicles, with the sound of honking and shouting from pedestrians forming a noisy group. If there were no accidents, today would be another peaceful day, but unfortunately someone broke it. Firstly, a sound that can be heard clearly in any noisy environment is transmitted to the ears. The focus that people continue to pay attention to is the content of that discourse, which is really explosive. The amount of information is too large. The entire Wooden Leaf fell silent for a moment, and the needles could be heard falling. In the next moment, there was even more noise, screams, and discussions, 10 times and 100 times louder, echoing from every corner of the entire Wooden Leaf, almost shaking it to the sky. Uchiha has wiped out the clan. Isn't Hinata becoming the top powerful family in the ninja world? Hinata, who was having breakfast at home, almost choked on tea. The first thought that came to his mind was this: can one be considered the most outstanding clan leader in the history of the Hinata clan, who led the family to defeat the Uchiha clan while lying down? Something big is going to happen. In the territory of the Autumn Dao family, the Autumn Dao Dingzhua swallows the food that almost sprays out of his mouth again, never wasting food at any time, which is the belief of the Autumn Dao family that they will never give up. How troublesome. At Nara Lumaru's house, the intelligent little Lumaru immediately realized something, scratched the pineapple's hair, and lay down on the dining table, lazy to get up again. Nara Lugio's face was solemn beside him. Xiaoyualishin Inoue and Chunai Sakura, who had agreed to go shopping early in the morning, were only shocked by these words that were not known to be true or false, and had not yet thought of the various problems that might exist behind them. However, I thought of my crush, Uchiha Sasuke, and was worried if he had any problems. I discussed whether to ask my parents and adults. Uchiha Sasuke experienced a nightmare in the middle of the night, then lay in a hospital bed and had another nightmare in the middle of the night. Previously, he was staring at the ceiling with a pair of black circles under his eyes, savoring the taste of hatred, pain, and decay. This is the tone of his life for the rest of his life. Now I suddenly heard the words, "Stop water," as if a drowning person had discovered the last life-saving straw. A glimmer of hope reignited in my eyes, roaring and stumbling as I jumped out of the hospital bed and ran barefoot, disregarding everything. I want to grasp the meaning of living on Earth beyond hatred. Naruto Vortex's reaction was exactly the opposite. He would never believe the words of Uchiha no water. The third-generation Hokage monkey flying grandpa was the only light in his life for many years, and he would never allow his light to be defiled by evil people. A small figure jumped onto the roof of the nearest house, dancing and doing his best to shout and admonish the pedestrians below. I wish I could tear open my own chest, dig out my own heart, and use my own life to prove to others that my 3 generations of grandfather are definitely the best person in the world. As for Metki and Shaoli, the two single-celled organisms have been overwhelmed with information and their brains have crashed, waiting for a restart in a daze. At this moment, in front of everyone's eyes, a Yuzhibo water stop untied the large ceiling scroll behind it and poured a sea of corpses and blood onto the busiest commercial district square in my, countless bodies of the Yuzhibo tribe, who died without closing their eyes, piled up together, with people stacked and their limbs pressed against each other. There are kind old women, young children aged 4 or 5, young people in their prime, and beautiful and charming young girls. There are fathers holding their children and wives in the final moments of their lives, young couples and lovers still snuggling together after death, and even some baby corpses scattered haphazardly on the mountain of corpses. There are professional ninjas in their prime, but more and more, there are ordinary members of the Chakra tribe who are only mistaken for their surname Uchiha. Inside and outside the noisy square, everyone suddenly fell completely silent. End of this chapter. Chapter 9, I am talking about reason. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 9, I am talking about reason. It is difficult to describe in detail the shock that everyone in the bustling square felt when they saw this scene, just like a person who had been immersed in the sweetness of peace for many years, had long forgotten the cruelty of war and the terror of death, suddenly fell into the battlefield of flesh and blood without warning. Most people have nightmares while sleeping at night and cannot create such a cruel and bloody scene, and this is happening right in front of them. Some people who experienced the night of the Nine Tails Rebellion 7 years ago, those who tried hard to forget and pressed into the deepest memories of terror once again hit their hearts, and the wounds that had just been healed were once again torn apart by bleeding scars. The words that were originally heard but refused to be believed now make them feel powerless to refute, as if they vaguely believed a little bit. At this moment, ninjas have already rushed over, intending to kill or capture this arrogant and rambling person on the spot, but in the face of the corpses of the entire Uchiha clan who died in silence, they stood still in amazement, faced with the corpses of countless innocent people who are the most convincing. Their unwavering justice is also difficult to justify. Are you really Yuzhibo Jishui? Didn't the Yuzhibo clan say you were already dead? What exactly happened? What does this have to do with the 3 generations of adults? Yuzhibo, stop talking nonsense. Yuzhibo, stop the water and quickly collect these corpses. If you have anything to report to the village will definitely give you a fair deal. Don't cause trouble on your own. Defamation of Lord Hokage, you have already made a big mistake, Uchiha Shirzue. I remember that you are also too sad and irrational. Now, let me capture you, accept the village's judgment, and there is still a chance to make amends. There's something wrong with the Yuzhibo clan. This is not a reason for you to go crazy. You dare to frame Lord Huoying. I will kill you on the spot and execute you on the spot without any problem. The ninjas who arrived were momentarily taken aback before regaining their sanity. They were full of words and phrases, some sympathized, some sighed and pitied, some looked at each other coldly, and some shouted loudly. There were even 2 ninjas who seemed to be from the Shimura family and the monkey flying family. After glancing at each other, they cooperated tacitly and rushed forward, trying to catch Shizuki alive and deal with the situation as soon as possible to prevent further escalation and prevent the situation from getting out of control. Result: bang, bang. Bang, bang. They flew back at a faster speed and flew over half of the square with the howling sound of the wind, fiercely inlaid on 2 decorative white stone pillars standing at the edge of the square. The exquisitely carved patterns on the surface of the stone pillar are broken and sunken, and the human-shaped grooves are covered with cracks formed after impact. At first glance, the overall appearance is quite beautiful, with a kind of alternative artistic beauty. As for the 2 ninjas who became stone pillar pendants, even though their bodies were protected by chakra infusion, most of their bones were shattered and they had lost all their struggling strength. They even had no ability to lower themselves from the stone pillar. How dare you resist? This is the only remaining thought in their hearts, and it is also something that most ninjas on the field could not have imagined. They rebelled in public and seriously injured fellow ninjas in the same village. Uchiha stopped water, and this is what rebelled against the village. He is already a rebellious person. I'm not sure if it's a ninja from Uchiha no Kami. Are you here to attack Kiba? Someone questioned. Regardless of whether they have sympathy and compassion for the Uchiha clan or not, all the ninjas present tightened their bodies and became highly vigilant, ready for battle and sacrifice, led by the high-ranking middle-aged fat man of the Autumn Taoist school, Shangren. A battle formation was formed in tacit agreement, with ninjutsu and ninjutsu ready for deployment, feint, main attack, assist, cover. Various tactical positions have been fully allocated with silent eye contact and coordination of gestures and movements. Everyone already knows what they need to do in the upcoming battle. In just a short amount of time, they have completed the transformation from ordinary residents who go out early in the morning to elite soldiers who are well trained and willing to sacrifice their lives, without hesitation, fear, or panic. This is ninja, a profession that ties its head to its waistband at all times. No, how could Yuzhibo, who has always loved me deeply, possibly harm his beloved village? I'm here today to make sense. Yuzhibo Jishui glanced at the two ninjas hanging on stone pillars at the edge of the square and spoke his heart sincerely. And in the next moment, a magnificent giant god standing hundreds of meters tall rose up from the ground. The giant, all green and covered in armor, was no longer just half-body, but the true form of Susano, the fully-bodied Susano. The size surpasses the mountain peak, presenting a posture of a martial god. Wings are transformed from the armor on the back, allowing for soaring in the sky. The length of the green spiral sword in the hand is almost the same as that of Susa. The width from the tip of the sword to the hilt and hand increases continuously, so that the sword body does not appear slender at all. On the contrary, it brings an unparalleled sense of heaviness and sturdiness to people. Even for the towering complete Susanobu, it is an undeniable battlefield weapon. It is easy to split mountains and smash meteorites, and compared to this spiral épée, the so-called 50-meter-long sword is as thin and tiny as a toothpick. Standing within the condensed Susanobu, overlooking the tiny ant-like crowd on the ground, the entire wooden leaf was almost in view from this height. Dorini's usually calm face was rarely adorned with a hint of madness. Driving a Gundam is indeed the ultimate dream of all men, even I have ignited it. Hold the sword, raise your hand, and chop it down. Boom! Accompanied by the tremendous roar of the air that suppressed all the noise of the entire wooden leaf, the upper half of a towering mountain peak in the distance was cut off from the air by a slash that was close to the parallel ground and slanted towards the ground. And from a distant distance, almost at the end of the line of sight, the aftermath of the slaying and cutting off the mountain peaks fell to the ground. A huge cloud of smoke, dust, and soil rose up into the sky, erasing a vast expanse of dense forest and revealing a yellowish ground. From a high altitude, it looked like an unsightly scar in the emerald green forest. The ground beneath my feet oscillated, caused by the aftershocks of the slash. After a moment, the ground oscillated for the second time, this time caused by the fall of a cut mountain peak. The air storm caused by sword-wielding wind pressure howled and circled inside and outside the wooden leaves, unable to stop for a long time. The ground bounced repeatedly, seemingly turning into a trampoline in a holiday amusement park. Everyone's hearts in Kiba also beat repeatedly, almost jumping out of their chest. Is this really something that ninjas can do? Is this a deity or 6 immortals who have descended into the world? It's a bit too out of specification, isn't it? What did you just say? Are you speaking the truth? Is there any such reasoning? Driving Gundam and holding a giant sword to reason with people. So this truth is really reasonable and convincing. Is this the truth of the Yuzhibo family? Your Uchiha family has such a big truth. Tell me earlier, take it out as soon as possible. Take it out early, won't there be nothing left? If I had known that Uchiha had such a great truth, then it wouldn't have been Uchiha trying his best to integrate into Kiba, but it's about Kiba trying every way to plead with the Uchiha family, don't create any barriers with Kiba. At this moment, the ninjas who had already planned to attack in the field fell silent, and the atmosphere suddenly became awkward. What should we do? Is it necessary to fight in this battle? Are we going to launch a frontal charge towards the gods? In the village of Kiba where family and friends live. End of this chapter. Chapter 10. The Desperate Moments of Monkey Flying and Sun Slaying. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 10. The Desperate Moments of Monkey Flying and Sun Slaying, what are you really going to do? Yuzhibo. When everyone hesitated and panicked, the leader of the Autumn Taoist family endured, and the chubby man suppressed all the emotions that had risen in his heart. With determination in his eyes, he left the queue and walked alone towards the giant god in front of him. He exposed his hands in front of him, indicating that he did not make any small movements to release ninjutsu, nor did he take any defensive measures. He walked forward without any defense and disregarded life and death. Faced with an enemy that he couldn't resist head-on, he decided to use his life to try establishing channels for communication and exchange. Even if it's not going well, try to delay the time as much as possible until the arrival of Lord Hokage and other strong men. We must not cause too much harm to the village and everyone before this. Carrying the only name of Shangren and the honor of Hachio Taoism on the field, he has this responsibility. The sweat that seeped out from the Autumn Taoist family flowed down their chubby face, and even memories and scenes from before death began to flash in their minds. I even regret waking up too late this morning and not having a full meal before I died. The next second, he froze. I saw Yuzhibo Jishui standing on the ground in front of me with a spiral giant sword in his hand, and a clear and resolute voice spread throughout the wooden leaves inside and outside. He said, "We, the Uchiha clan, have never had any intention of harming Kiba from beginning to end. Mai is also our beloved home of Uchiha. I have said from the beginning that I am not here to harm or retaliate against Kiba, and the Uchiha clan, who love Kiba dearly, will never do so. I, Yuzhibo, stop water. It's a matter of reason. Now, are you willing to believe it?" Everyone inside, outside, and inside the wooden leaf looked up at the towering giant god who could lift his hand to cut off the mountain peaks and destroy the entire wooden leaf with any movement. I can't think of any words in my mind that can be used to refute. There is no other reason. Absolute power is absolute evidence. Such a strong and powerful force, full of unquestionable persuasiveness, countless civilians and ninjas on the square, who had only barely regained their senses until now, stared at the bloody corpse mountain of the Uchiha clan beside them, and compared the deep affection for Kiba, the pain of extermination, and the calmness that was trying to restrain themselves in the words of Uchiha stop water. In the hearts of all of them, an unparalleled sense of guilt emerged uncontrollably, as well as deep sympathy and sympathy for this young Uchiha. This emotion is so strong that they even have a rebellious idea. Is what Yuzhibo Jishui said true? He, the third-generation Hokage, must have made some mistakes by sending dark ninjas to launch a surprise attack and exterminate his fellow villager Yuzhibo, or even, is it really related to the Nine Tails Rebellion and the death of the fourth Hokage? Played some unremarkable roles in it. Discovered by the Uchiha clan, to the point of killing and silencing, they were all taken aback by their own thoughts. The image of Hokage, always just and free from any flaws or dirt, suddenly seemed to have become less perfect, with indelible stains. At least, they also believe that there must be some issues with the third-generation Hokage. There may be some misunderstandings, but the monkey flying sun slaying itself also inevitably has some ugly aspects that are not very visible to people. They can no longer fully and wholeheartedly believe in the third Hokage. The cracks of trust have already formed. In another layer of reality, that no one can truly see in reality, the towering green giant is actually all black in color. A transparent mirror on its chest is surging with layers of light that radiates, covering the entire leaves and surrounding areas from afar. Dareni did not forcefully implant emotional thoughts into people's hearts, but only guided countless people's emotions towards the direction they needed through the emotional impact brought by reality, like spring breeze moistening rain, silently infiltrating the entire world, without arousing any spiritual or psychological vigilance or resistance. In theory, some individuals who possess extraordinary personality charm and public speaking abilities in their past and present lives can achieve the same thing with just one mouth, without relying on any extraordinary abilities, but ashamed. Dorini's public speaking ability is still a billion points short of that level, so he had to rely on his powerful brick flying and emotional guidance ability with super large range illusions as a supplement. Fortunately, the effect is good. Dorini is a very practical person, and he doesn't mind it at all. He even thinks about solidifying this ability into himself and adding a verbal evasion ability to himself. Or can it be called speech eloquence or human seduction? During this period, the third-generation Hokage Monkey Flying Sun finally arrived at the scene with his accompanying escort ninja team, staring in amazement at the towering green giant god in front of him. He had witnessed with his own eyes the completion of all of Uchiha's Susanobu, and could also see that the stop water in front of him had reached the same height as the two ninja gods who had swept away chaos and created Konoha in the past. Perhaps it's still a bit short, but at that height, he can no longer distinguish. He is invincible to other ninjas. Who is more invincible and how can he distinguish? In just an instant, Ape Flying Sun gave up his plan of using force to resist. Unless the opponent wanted to directly destroy Kiba, he would lead the Kiba ninjas to fight to the death. Otherwise, negotiating a compromise would be his only and consistent choice when facing the other party. Are you a water stop? Itachi told me you committed suicide. Monkey Flying Sun seemed to have completely forgotten the anger he had when he first heard the other person's slander. At this moment, his short body worked hard to lift its head and put back on the kind smile that he often showed on his face, laughing like when faced with Uchiha's promise to stop water. He promised to give the Uchiha family a peaceful and beautiful future. He is trying hard to make the other party remember the warmth of the past, and to bring time back to the time when they trusted each other and worked together to solve the conflict between the Uchiha family and Kiba, Yuzhibo. Jishui is a descendant of Mirror, a reliable ninja who believes in the will of fire. His trust in himself is even higher than that of his clan leader Yuzhibo Fuyue. Unfortunately, he failed. The expression on Yuzhibo Jishui's face was incomprehensible to him, and he felt a bit flustered about his ability to grasp people's hearts. Monkey Flying Sun I'm still alive. Are you disappointed? Because I am dead, I have decided to exterminate the Uchiha clan, kill all possible informants, and continue to cover up the fact that 7 years ago, in order to regain the position of Hokage, you deliberately released the 9 tails and forced the death of the 4th-generation Hokage Feng Shui men couple. No, it's all a misunderstanding. I've never given such an order before. The person who killed the Uchiha clan is not the dark side, but rather the Uchiha Itachi. Monkey Flying Sun's face turned green after chopping it, and he nervously waved his hands, desperately explaining that this black pot was really not his. It's too outrageous. At such a young age, he has never seen someone blindly hold a black pot like this. Where is Tuanzang? Where is my group collection? Where did you go? Where should I put my black pot without you? Ha ha. Did Uchiha Itachi kill the entire Uchiha clan? Monkey Flying and Sun cutting, there must be a limit to making up lies. Ha ha. Yuzhibo Jishui was furious and trembling uncontrollably, emitting a self-deprecating and bitter smile that was close to losing control of his emotions. Obviously, the nonsense that had been chopped by the Monkey Flying Sun was so angry that even his voice choked up. This young man, who stands tall on top of the giant god but gives the impression of being pitiful and stubborn, asked back with a crying voice. Yuzhibo Itachi is the leader of the Yuzhibo Junior clan, and Yuzhibo is a relative and friend of the same clan who lived and grew up with him. In the future, the entire Yuzhibo will be his. He killed the entire Uchiha clan. You know he's only 13 years old this year. Is that possible? Monkey Flying Sun why don't you say it's our Uchiha who, in order to falsely accuse you, committed suicide with all the ninjas of our clan, including the elderly, children, women, and children. The Monkey Flying Sun is dumbfounded. This may sound quite outrageous, but that's the truth. I'm telling the truth, why don't you believe it? He was about to continue explaining when he saw the enraged Uchiha Shushui lifting up the large, long, spiral-shaped, great principle in his hand. The Konoha ninjas are all panicking. They know you have a reason, so there's no need to keep shaking it up. It's too scary. Stay calm, calm down. Let's put down the big reason and reason together. The numerous leaders of the ninja tribe and high-ranking officials of Kiba, who had already arrived behind them, hurriedly stopped and hugged the monkey-flying sun slayer, secretly signaling him not to stimulate the Uchiha water stopping of the lost clan anymore. He has a few hundred meters tall, big and thick, hard truth. Among the chiefs of the ninja tribe, the chubby and honest Chiu Daoding, with a face full of pity and sympathy for the young people in the same village, couldn't help but speak out to persuade. Third-generation adult, you. Sigh, just say a few words less. Even you don't believe me. The monkey-flying sun slash couldn't believe it, and turned around to look at the ninja clan leaders and high-ranking officials present, finally locking onto the autumn Daoding constellation. The chubby face of Chiu Daoding is almost sweating with nervousness, and his eyes are evasive. He dare not look at the monkey-flying sun slash. The other chiefs of the ninja tribe also lowered their heads and remained silent, saying nothing. The monkey-flying sun's heart sank cold. He was so angry that he trembled all over. On a scorching hot day, he was covered in cold sweat and his hands and feet were cold. Really, everything I said is true. Why don't you even believe me? End of this chapter.